Hello everyone! Last week we did the story of the Western Plaguelands, and as promised, today we're going to deep dive into the story of Scholomance, and we made it a little bit extra special. Now the Plaguelands did not always have this name. It was earned by the devastation that was caused to it. The human Kel'Thuzad, in order of the Lich King, he worked on using his connections, his fortune, the power of illusion, persuasion, sickness and force, to develop and spread the plague across the lands of Lordaeron and establish the Lich King's hold upon Azeroth. All this to weaken the world for another invasion from the Lich King's creators, namely the Burning Legion. When Kel'Thuzad arrived back in Lordaeron, he did so as a holy man, preaching the hope of a brand new religion. He won over the lower classes by playing on their disillusionment with Lordaeron's government. He proclaimed that he could ease the pain of the downtrodden, give hope to the hopeless, and lead the destitute to eternal life. The lies, they came easily to him. He had seen the power of undeath. Now that it was bound to the Lich King, he no longer feared it. He even hungered for the day when he would cast off the shackles of life and ascend to a greater undead form. For the rich, Kel'Thuzad took a different approach. He enticed nobles and landowners with offers of great power and immortality if they joined his cause. Some voiced concern about what seemed like a people's movement geared toward toppling the established order, but Kel'Thuzad eased their fears. He said that the lower classes were no threat. They were simply a tool that the privileged could use to destroy their rivals and secure more wealth. As the years passed, Kel'Thuzad recruited more and more people to his cause. Few truly understood the horrors that awaited them all. Only individuals whom he was certain that he could turn to darkness. They learned the truth about the plague of undeath and what it would do to humanity. In time, Kel'Thuzad's followers would become known as the Cult of the Damned. The cult's headquarters, they were established in the catacombs beneath an ancient human fortress that was called Scholomance. Now what better way to uncover how these events went down than to follow our adventurer as they come in contact with the spirits still lingering at the school.
Hello, young man. I'm Eva Sarkov, and this is my husband, Lucian. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
The pleasure is mine, madam. Might I ask, what is it that you are doing here?
Oh, certainly. We were once servants of the House Barov, what is now known as the Scholomance. I was the head maid, and Lucian was Master Barov's butler. We had worked for the Barovs for decades, until...
Until what, Eva? I must know.
Oh, it's just so horrible. The House Barov was once full of life, full of splendor.
Take a slice of pie, grab a glass of wine, enjoy yourselves. All are welcome at the Barovs.
Our chef has prepared an excellent roast pig for dinner.
Jandis! I was wondering if you could show Pete the one you showed us before. You want to see a magic trick?
The manor was the Barov's primary residence amidst their far-reaching empire. Lucian and I noticed that as the days progressed, the Barovs became depressed, despondent.
Bandits have been seen all over Alterac. I think we need to increase security around our borders.
Oh, they're probably in league with that damn Blackmore. Have you seen that monster he's trained to fight in his ring? He's up to something, I know it. Our estate, everything we've worked for. We can't be here forever to protect Kaya Darrow. Our land.
Paranoia and rage often overcame the master and missus. At night, we could hear the Barovs arguing in their chambers. From what we understood, their greed had broken the dam, so to speak.
What do you mean? I see you wear the garb of the Kirin Tor. I assume you are a mage from Dalaran, then. Tell me, what is it you wanted to speak to me about?
Lord Barov, you see, some of my peers would disapprove of some of my studies, the power I sought out, and I think we can help each other. I heard you had your alchemists research the secrets of immortality. I can help you there. All I ask in return for eternal life is that you provide me with your estate to train my acolytes and advance my studies. That is all.
We suspect that in order to preserve their fortune and hold of the land well past their lifespan, the Barovs made a deal with a powerful human mage named Kel'Thuzad. From this deal sprang the School of Necromancy, a place which bore the cult of the damned and would become their capital. As each week passed, the House Barov became more and more decrepit. Dark beings began to take residence in the various wings of the house. Upkeep became impossible and disgusting.
Why didn't you just leave?
And go where? It was all that we knew, all that we had known, and all that we would ever know. Eventually, we lost contact with the Barovs and ultimately were separated from the household. We knew not what happened to the other servants, only that there were screams. Tortured screams. Knowing that we had nowhere to go, Lucian and I were forced to hide in our quarters. During the day, when the school was relatively quiet, Lucian would sneak out to scrounge up food and drink.
So, what happened?
We did this for about 6 months and watched as the house went through horrifying changes. Foul monsters roamed through the manor at will. Dark cultists populated every inch with various paraphernalia relating to rituals and sacrifices.
You have found your way here because you are among the few gifted with true vision in a world cursed with blindness. Through our master, all things are possible. His power is without limit, and his will unbending.
Perhaps you should have studied more.
Strip the flesh, harvest the organs, nothing goes to waste. Mix and stir, apply heat.
We knew that we could not hide much longer.
Odd. I didn't think we had any servants left. Now you stay put. The circle of blood is made just for you.
No restraints? Just a circle?
Restraints? There are things in this world far more restraining than bars and shackles, young master. The undead surrounding us, constantly tormenting us with horrifying acts of depravity. Finally, he came.
The doctor is in.
He introduced himself as Dr. Thielen Krastenov. We came to know him as the Butcher.
Tell me more.
We finally understood what the screams were from. The butcher exposed us to pain that we did not know existed. He used us in countless experiments, attempting to devise a plague. The days turned to weeks. We would have died on the first day had it not been for that cruel monster keeping us alive through magical means.
This is an atrocity.
The butcher would speak of the blood of the innocents and his dark master, Kirtanos, of how he must appease his master. Finally, the beast was done with his experiments. We had been drained of all life. Our spirits shattered. The sweet embrace of death was upon us, and we welcomed it with open arms. But in his infinite cruelty, the butcher revived us from death's door. We were to be kept alive and thrown to his ravenous ghouls. He laughed as he watched the fiends devour our flesh.
I feel sick.
We feel nothing. Our souls remain here, in limbo. We are unable to leave until our remains are found, and spirits laid to rest.
And so, darkness swept over Scholomance. From within, Kel'Thuzad and his cult of the damned. They worked very hard on bringing death to the lands of Lordaeron. Once their plans were put in motion, Prince Arthas followed a very dark path, which eventually led him to the culling of Stratholme, following Mal'Ganis to the cold land of Northrend, and while there, he picked up Frostmourne. Now he too was in the service of the Lich King, fulfilling his grand schemes. Kel'Thuzad's wish of dropping the shackles of life and ascend to a greater undead form, they came true. He became the Lich, while the school of necromancy that continued its operations, and heroes were called in to take care of business. Easier said than done though, since the door to Scholomance was not exactly left open. Unless you had someone who could pick a lock, like a rogue or an engineer, or someone actually willing to kill themselves in front of the door, spawn behind it and open it up for the team, you were going to need a skeleton key. Not a cheap quest to complete either. Skeletal fragments from the skeletons at Anderhall. They were taken to Crinkle Goodsteel in Gadgetzan, who dared to ask a whopping 15 gold for his service. 15 gold, can you believe it? Only the richest could be heroes in this game. In the fires of Fireplume Ridge, we molded the key, finished it off by slaying Arash the Summoner in Anderhall, and with that, we could combat the horrors within Scholomance, bring peace to the spirits of Ava and her husband Lucian. The butcher, Dr. Teolan Krastenov, is responsible for the deaths of thousands, and he must be punished. Justice demands retribution. We find him and exact upon him the agony that he has inflicted upon countless of innocents. Once he is destroyed, we burn the remains of the Sarkovs, healing their spirits, but not setting them free quite yet. A great weight has been lifted from their hearts, but our task is far from over. Krastenov's master, Kirtanos, it still lives. Before we may even face Kirtanos, we must first secure a method in which to summon him. It is said that Yandis Barov stewards the blood of the innocents from Krastenov to Kirtanos. We find her in the sunken catacombs of Scholomance and we strike her down. From her corpse, we retrieve Krastenov's bag of horrors. This is just what we needed, the blood of the innocents, the purest of blood, used to appease Krastenov's master. With blood, Kirtanos may be summoned. It is with blood then that Kirtanos must be destroyed. Within the chamber of summoning, we find a brazier, upon which we place a drop of our very own blood. Kirtanos comes. He cannot resist. The full fury and wrath of 1,000 innocent deaths is unleashed upon him. With its death, a chapter in the horrible tale Scholomance comes to a close. We have earned Lucian and Ava's deepest, everlasting gratitude for our bravery. There is, however, much more to be done. Others here are now aware of our brave acts, other spirits that we can see with the spectral essence, a gift imbued with the peace of their own essence. It allows us to communicate with the other lost souls of Seer Darrow. One major reason for doing this questline was actually to gain access to a vendor that sells some awesome patterns. Well, of course, it is pretty cool to see that the spirits of the lost, they're still lost in the past. Some even mention that they're still expecting Uther the Lightbringer to show up, but the Paladin would never accomplish his mission to aid and comfort those here that are suffering from the war. Others, like Magistrate Marduk, are not spared the anguish that memories provide. He is well aware of what happened to Scholomance, of how the cult of the damned infiltrates society and unleashes massive devastation, of how the Lich Eraz Frostwhisper oversees the school in Kel'Thuzad's absence and has to be taken care of. This is the being responsible for training all of its Dark Masters, a lieutenant and favorite pupil of Kel'Thuzad. He was once a hedge mage of Stromgarde, a rogue wizard that never received his formal training from Dalaran. When Kel'Thuzad finally opened up the cult, Raz was amongst the first to join his ranks, knowing that through dark magic he would find immortality. After quickly advancing through the ranks of the cult, it was time for the ritual. At Menethil's gift within Stratholme, he pledged his undying soul to the Lich King himself, slicing his own throat from ear to ear. Smiling as he did, his body collapsed inside the borders of the pentagram. The Lich King stood over the fallen mage, and with a single motion, Raz Frostwhisper the Lich was born. Now, taking care of a Lich is rather tricky, considering that you need to destroy their phylactery to truly get rid of them, but perhaps there is another way. Perhaps we can find some way of stripping Raz from his Lich powers altogether and turn him back into a mortal. By going back to the place where he was created, we use the soulbound keepsake to bind his soul to the item. With it, we revert him to a mortal and we strike him down. The head is then returned to the magistrate. 10,000 souls cry out in unison. We have struck a mortal blow to the Scourge, and of course their masters. But so much more remains to be done within the dark halls of Scholomance. Lord Alexei, Lady Elucia, and Yandis Barov, they were overtaken by the darkness, but their two sons, Alexei and Weldon, they managed to avoid spending their eternal damnation within the school. One is still a human, while the other fell to the plague, broke himself free, and now operates as a Forsaken. They even came face to face once, with Weldon not taking the kill, unable to strike down his own brother, even if he is an undead. He regrets that choice now. Money is on their hearts and on their minds. Both of them have not forgotten about the wealth that their family once owned, and both of them have never learned to share. First, they asked the adventurers to go into Scholomance and retrieve their family fortune, the deeds to Seer Darrow, Brill, South Shore and Tar Mill. It's anyone's guess how they actually plan to claim those areas, but all the same, with their deeds in their possession, they only have one more request. Please, go out and kill my brother, the last of the Barov family. Despite their heads being brought back as proof of demise, neither one of them really died, and with the Mr. Pandaria revamp, they left the area altogether to show up during Warlords of Draenor. Here we see them working together as partners in Barov Industries. They united to plunder the worlds of Draenor's riches, but again, their greed got the better of them, and they stabbed each other in the back. Last we know of them is being forced to languish in the abandoned garrison, eternally punished by being a follower for heroes that already moved on. So like I mentioned, Scholomance has seen a couple of changes over time. It went from a 10-man raid into a 5-man dungeon, followed by some change in the Cataclysm, and then a complete revamp with Mr. Pandaria. That changed the layout as well as the story told inside. But in Classic, this massive dungeon, it had 3 required bosses: Raz Frostwhisper, Red Ogre, and Dark Master Gantling. 7 to 8 optional bosses, and then 6 bosses required to even summon the final boss, Summon Gantling. So many bosses meant that there were many different paths you could take, as well as many different people that did not feel like doing your optional bosses. One of those could be found right at the start in the Reliquary. The succubus, known as Blood Steward of Kirtonos, was completely optional, but would drop a Blood of Innocence, so you had a resource to summon another optional boss. From the Reliquary, you would go into the Chamber of Summoning, with on the right the option to use this Blood of the Innocent to fight Kirtonos the Herald. You then move forward into the now called Butch's Sanctum, which opened up the choices. Going down the path on the right, that sends you through a crypt-like area, what they now use for the Halls of Illusions, with the optional boss Gendis Barov waiting at the end. The daughter of the Barov family was once an Archmage of Dalaran and a powerful illusionist, able to create copies of herself indistinguishable from her real form. This way, her enemies had no way of tracking her down, skills that she could still utilize in combat. She drops a journal full with rantings and ravings about the undead. Towards the end of the book is what appears to be a tailoring pattern for the creation of a bag. This taught tailors how to make velcloth bags, designed specifically once upon a time to hold your soul shards. I don't remember much from Classic Scholomance, but I do remember that going through this area was really painful. Going through the path straight ahead of you, that would send you through the Great Ossuary, where they're busy experimenting with the plagued hatchlings. Red Ogre was waiting down below, while paladins or shamans with their quest, they could use this area to summon the optional boss, Death Knight Dark Reaver. He himself was once a celebrated paladin, but was seduced by the call of the Lich King. Now he threatens to twist the spirit realm to do his own bidding, and he must be stopped, which rewarded shamans with a pretty sweet helmet. Paladins were more concerned about his now corrupted steed. After a very lengthy questline, they could reclaim the spirits and earn the epic charger. Going through the path on the left, that takes you into the viewing room, where there used to be 2 paths you could take, rather than just one. The path we take now straight ahead, that used to lead into the laboratory, where the fight against Raz Frostwhisper played out. Warlocks could also use the laboratory as part of their mount quest, unleash a little imp to make a parchment. Well, you could also summon the optional boss Cormac here. This is a massive ogre necromancer required for the Dungeon Set 2 quest line, also known as tier 0.5. In the viewing room itself, we see the optional boss Vectus giving a lecture to his board students. He's the one who developed the Plague Dragonflight by experimenting and messing around with X taken out of Blackrock Spire. His partner next to him might look familiar for those who have done the Battle of Darrowshire questline. This is the optional boss Marduk Blackpool, who corrupted the spirit of Joseph Redpath, sealing the humans' defeat. The door on the left, that's the one that leads to the Headmaster's study, and our final boss required for the instance. But he doesn't show up until you've cleared all 6 rooms, each of them filled with an individual boss. There's the Ravenian, one of Kel'Thuzad's mightiest agents, ready to devour those students who show any sign of weakness. There's Lord Keeper Polkeld, the High Elf Instructor Militia, the spirits of Lady Ilusha Barov, the Death Knight Lord Alexei Barov, and Dr. Teolan Krestanov, aka the Butcher.
School is in session.
It's a good thing that we need to clear out the rooms before engaging the Dark Master Gantling, the headmaster here appointed by Kel'Thuzad himself. The man loves to teleport random party members into one of the side chambers, where then they'll have to fight their own way out. A massive, absolutely massive dungeon with a lot of different paths, a lot of different encounters. But with Mr. Pandaria, they decided to streamline this a whole lot more. They brought the encounters down to a total of 5 and sealed off any of the side paths. A talking skull lets us know that he and his family fell victim to this place what seems like ages ago. Let their fate serve as a warning to those who would meddle in necromancy. It wants our aid in lifting the curse that has befallen upon Scholomance, to give Darkmaster Gantling his final death. While we go through the place, we might as well make sure to destroy the necromantic knowledge that they've gathered. Not 4 deeds this time around, instead 4 tomes are destroyed. In the shadow of the light, Kel'Thuzad's deep knowledge, forbidden rites, and the dark grimoire. Individuals seeking to master the powers of undeath. They know well of Scholomance, the infamous school of necromancy, located in the dark and foreboding crypts beneath Sir Darrow. In recent years, several of the instructors have changed, but the institution, it remains under the control of Darkmaster Gantling, a particularly sadistic and insidious practitioner of necromantic magic. The first boss, Instructor Chillheart, she teaches the course Introduction to the Dark Arts.
Class is now in session.
She journeyed all the way from Northrend to teach aspiring necromancers discipline, harshly punishing those who disappoint her. She commands the icy chill of the north and masterfully uses Scolomance's libraries to deadly effect. As you may know now, liches are not that easy to kill. Unless, of course, they're dumb enough to keep the phylactery in the same room. Next is Yandis Barov, teaching the course Advanced Illusions. Barov's spirit lurked in the recesses of Scholomance for years, but now she's taken a much more active role in educating the next generation of magi. Her vast knowledge of illusions has made her both a valued educator and a dangerous opponent to anyone foolish enough to draw her ire. She is still a big fan of making copies of herself. Let's see if we can give her a final death.
Death hurts. Unreal.
In the Chamber of Summoning, we run into an old friend, Lillian Voss. Recently, she's been resurrected by the Valkyr in Order of Sylvanas, and she was offered a position amongst the Forsaken. But Lillian wasn't down with being an undead. She tried to go home to her father, a high priest of the Scarlet Crusade. The Crusaders are not too fond of the undead, so her father tried to have her killed. Instead, it was she who murdered him and pursued a path away from the Forsaken, fighting against Crusaders and Necromancers alike. We actually helped her with that within the monastery. We also got her some beautiful rune blades, which she now points at the Dark Master.
Run, necromancer! Your life ends once I catch my breath.
Come, Voss. Your fate awaits you.
Enter Redogor for the course Reanimation 101. Redogor was thought to be destroyed in Anderhall, but Gantling immediately began preparations to reanimate the clattering terror so he could guard against intruders. The Dark Master sought to make Redogor more ferocious than ever, imbuing him with an insatiable desire to harvest raw materials from his enemies. We can use the bone piles in the room to protect ourselves from his most devastating attacks. Further ahead, within the Butcher's Sanctum, good old Dr. Teolan Krestanov can still on occasion make an appearance. He even drops his bag of hodders, which you could use to perform quick surgery on yourself. But we could clearly see that his students are still hard at work. They're pursuing his studies.
Did you forget, girl? I am the Dark Master. I command the undead.
I won't let you.
Meanwhile, Lillian is having a little bit of trouble dealing with the Dark Master. His mastery over the undead, it splits her soul from her body, and it turns her lovely rune blades against us. Thankfully, we are able to hit her hard enough, put her soul back where it belongs, and she regains control.
What?
Die, necromancer!
The bones! Oh, you wretch!
Leave me to die alone, please.
Eternal death would not be your fate. Instead, we would see Lillian pop up many times in the future. Most recently, she's been helping out the Horde with their war campaign and guiding people into undeath. Professor Slate. He's in the middle of a lecture as we barge into the viewing room. On his desk, we can find a polyformic acid potion. Its results are a little bit unpredictable, but when lucky enough, it does give us a chance to deal additional nature damage to the Dark Master and his minions.
If you haven't come to study, school is in session.
Dark Master Gandling, with his course Advanced Studies. The recent defeat in Anderhall, it has put Dark Master Gandling in the foulest of moods. More than ever, all students of Scholomance are advised to impress him at every turn. Pupils who dissatisfy the headmaster, they will be removed from class to perform lab work, or they become the lab work. Still a big fan of sending random enemies away. Let's make that random talking skull very happy and lift the curse on Scholomance.
Class dismissed.
Would you look at that? Turns out that the skull was Lord Alexei Barov all along. He owes us a debt, one which he can never repay, but we do have his thanks for lifting the curse off of his family. Kel'Thuzad, the Lich King, and now Dark Master Gandling. All of them are dead. Perhaps now he too can find some semblance of peace. Fast forward to the Legion time period, and once again Scholomance is besieged by darkness, this time in the form of alternate Gul'dan and his Shadow Council. The Orc Warlock plans to perform a powerful ritual that will bring all opposition to their knees. He is going to need some powerful artifacts to accomplish that. One of them being the Book of Medivh, the same book that Kel'Thuzad once upon a time, he used it to summon Archimonde into the world. No one really knew what happened to the book afterwards, but it seems like Kel'Thuzad entrusted it here within Scholomance, the place where he formed the cult of the Damned. The book containing knowledge from the corrupted Guardian. It's once again needed by the Legion. A great bargaining chip for the Warlocks that are actually after the Scepter of Sargeras, and they need to find some way to earn Gul'dan's trust. They would murder the opposition and steal the book from their broken bodies, leaving Scholomance and his dark practices behind, while pursuing their legendary artifact, which they would wield in the war against the Legion. And there ends the story of the School of Necromancy, the story of Scholomance for the moment. But since we have taken care of business like 3 times already, and they're still carrying on with their obsession for own death, I'm sure that one day it will rear its decrepit head once again and play its part in the story. Before we close off the video, I do have a couple of people that I want to thank for helping bringing this story to life. Kalis, of course, with her amazing machinima. Taliesin, Evatel, and Latomi lending their voices to the characters. Honestly, I'm blown away by the result, and so happy that the video is finally out. Finally, there's also WoW Musicable, who had an awesome recording of old school Scholomance up on the YouTube channel, and was kind enough to let me use their recordings. It would have been a whole lot more difficult to show what I was talking about without them. Links to their stuff in the description down below. As for me, you could decide to subscribe. You could also like the video, maybe even leave a comment. Who knows what you want to do today? Possibilities are endless. So for now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. And until next time, see ya!